Hi everybody, I'm Amanda Sevilla, one of the Vivo Life ambassadors. I'm also a registered dietitian. I specialize in plant-based nutrition, and I'm also a yoga teacher and lover of all things plant-based and vegan. Anyway, today we're going to be doing a Q&A using questions that you have asked on the Vivo Life Instagram page story. If you're not already following Vivo Life, make sure you give them a quick follow. And if you're also not following me and you're interested in plant-based nutrition, self-care, yoga, and all those types of things, make sure you give me a follow as well. We're just gonna jump right into the Q&As. So the first question is, what supplements do you recommend on a vegan diet? The main three staple supplements, or I guess staple supplements that I would recommend are vitamin B12, omega-3, and vitamin D. So for vitamin B12, I highly recommend anybody, not just vegan, not just vegetarian, take a vitamin B supplement, because vitamin B is actually synthesized by bacteria. Long ago, before we had industrialization, before we had like farming and herbicides and chemicals and pesticides and whatnot, we just took our root vegetables, we took fruit, we took our regular vegetables from the ground, kind of rinsed it off to take the dirt off, and then ate it. Some of that vitamin B12 made by the bacteria in the soil would still remain on the plants, and that's how humans and animals naturally get their B12. However, now that we have all these farming techniques and we have mass production of food and mass transportation of food so everybody can get nutrition, we're missing out on that bacteria, especially if you wash your vegetables and fruits thoroughly, which I recommend anyway. So vitamin B12 is very essential for nerve health as well as your metabolism of energy all over your body, and it's not really easy to tell if you have a vitamin B12 deficiency right away, but there are some studies that suggest that low intake of vitamin B12 earlier on might lead to degenerative neural diseases in the future. There's no 100% cause and effect, but it's better to be safe than sorry. So make sure you supplement with the vitamin B12. As for vitamin D, nowadays it's kind of hard to get all the vitamin D that we need. It's not necessarily abundant in food sources. Humans, for as long as we've been evolving, have been getting our vitamin D actually from ourselves. As long as we get enough sun exposure and appropriate sun exposure, we are able to convert certain compounds in our body to create vitamin D. However, nowadays it's either hard to get enough sun because of not being outside a lot. Personally, I take vitamin D regularly because I am inside, I work indoors, I study indoors, I do a lot of my work indoors, and when I go outside, it's only for a couple minutes, and even then, not entirely sure how much vitamin D I'm really getting. Whereas I know that my ancestors used to be in the sun for a long time throughout the day, gathering their food, creating whatever they needed to create, maybe building their house. But nowadays it's not really necessary, although our bodies definitely need vitamin D, which is very essential for heart health, brain health, bone health especially. I'm sure you've heard of vitamin D and calcium being super important for your bones, which is very true. So make sure you get enough vitamin D. And as for omegas, omega-3 is not something that many people take or that is super necessary, but there are a lot of studies emerging that are showing that our brains actually start to shrink after the age of 25, I believe. And in order to keep up that neural pathway and in order to keep up our brain health, some other studies have also suggested that taking omega-3 can help keep your brain intact. Those are the three supplements that I recommend to everybody and that I also take myself. You could also get enough ALA, which is a form of omega-3 from things like chia seeds, flax seeds, and hemp seeds. But in order to ensure that you're getting an abundant amount of long-chain omega-3s, then make sure you take an omega-3 supplement. But just as an add-on, if you're not taking an omega-3 supplement, make sure you are supplementing or including those seeds that I've mentioned earlier. So flax seeds, chia seeds, hemp seeds, and other food sources of omega-3s in your diet to ensure that you get enough in your body. It is an essential fat, which means that our body cannot make it, but it is also easy to source from plant sources. Next question is there a difference between animal protein and plant protein? So yes, there is a huge difference between animal protein and plant protein. Animal protein has a lot of very unhealthy byproducts for our body and is also a lot harder for our kidneys to break down. Also, the digestion of animal protein in our stomach and in our gut leads to the creation of harmful byproducts that are actually very inflammatory. In addition, animal protein usually comes with a lot of saturated fat and cholesterol, which have been linked to increased risk of not only heart disease, but also diabetes, kidney disease, hypertension, and the like. So plant protein, on the other hand, isn't as high in protein, but the truth of the matter is we don't really need as much protein as the average bodybuilder at your gym thinks that we need. We really only need about 10 to 30% of our calories coming from protein, and honestly 10 to 20% is sufficient enough as long as we're getting it from quality whole food sources. So anyway, going back to plant protein, you get the protein that you need, and as long as you're getting a variety of plant foods, you'll get all the complete amino acids that you need. So we don't really need to focus on food combining so much. That idea has been proposed a long time ago, and it's also been debunked a long time ago. We can actually get all essential and non-essential amino acids as long as we eat a wide variety of plant foods. So make sure your plate is colorful. And then plant protein also has no cholesterol. Some contain a small amount of saturated fat, but most plant proteins are, again, cholesterol free. They come with many other things like micronutrients, your vitamins and minerals. They come with phytochemicals and phytonutrients. They come with fibers, a little bit of fat, a little bit of complex carbohydrates. So it's a complete package, and we aren't getting those harmful byproducts that animal proteins do have. In addition, animal protein is very, very inefficient to grow, produce, and to feed the world with. A lot of land, water, and resources are used just to raise enough cattle, enough chicken, enough fish, especially just so that we can have enough protein, when in reality, we can use a small fraction of those resources to create the same amount of energy just with plants. So a little food for thought, thinking about the environment here. The next question is, I've heard that the bioavailability of nutrients in animal products is not as bioavailable in plant products. Is this true? So things like your heme iron and your protein, yes, this is true. It's not as bioavailable as plants. But do we really want everything to be 100% absorbed by our body? And this is a question that I never really asked myself until I started learning more about nutrition in the formal context. And the answer really is no. We don't want everything to be 100% absorbed by the body, because that means that there's really no regulating system for the body to uptake iron, to uptake all that protein. And a lot of studies have shown that excess protein is really not that helpful for our body. Like, we can only metabolize and use so much protein in one sitting, and if we don't have a way to regulate how much is coming in and how much our body is absorbing, then it can be difficult for our body later on. Another example is heme versus non-heme iron. So heme iron is the type of iron that is found in animals. So we ourselves have heme iron in us. That's the kind of iron that's mentioned when people eat red meat, when people eat chicken, there's heme iron in it, and it is absorbed by our body 100%. But the problem with that is that there is no regulating system. If we have too much heme iron, it's almost impossible to stop more heme iron from coming in, which can be difficult for our body because iron can oxidize and cause more inflammation and cause more cells and more protective cells to come around and try to protect the body, which ultimately creates a lot of harmful byproducts. When non-heme iron, which is the iron that comes from plant foods such as spinach, is easily regulated by the body. So our body's like, okay, so we have enough iron and there's this non-heme iron coming in. We don't need it. So the intestines will actually shift in such a way that they won't absorb that non-heme iron. But if we do need more iron, then the intestines will be like, hey, I guess we need more. And then they'll start to absorb more in there. Yes, some foods are not as bioavailable in the plant form, but that doesn't mean that we can't get enough, and it also doesn't mean that it's not good for us, that it's not as bioavailable. And there are foods that are very close in bioavailability as animal sources, such as soy. Soy products are very, very close to 100% bioavailability, which is the marker, and that is the standard set by egg whites. We can get pretty close, we can get all the protein we need, we can get all the nutrients we need, and we won't have to have those harmful byproducts. The next question is, what are critical nutrients on a vegan diet? So the critical nutrients in a vegan diet are going to be the same across the board for any type of diet because it's the critical nutrients needed for our biological body. I'm just gonna go over the basics. So obviously we need protein, carbohydrates, and fat, which can be easily found in plant sources. And for the micronutrients, we definitely need our calcium, which can be found in foods such as tofu, can be found in almonds, can be found in dark leafy greens. The next one is iron, which can be found again in dark leafy greens, in nuts and seeds, as well as in legumes. So like lentils, chickpeas, black beans, pinto beans. And then we also need to make sure that we're getting enough of the essential nutrients or the essential supplements that I told you about earlier, which are going to be your omega fats, which you can get from plant sources as well as a supplement, B12, which you can get from a supplement, vitamin D, which you can get from a supplement and by going outside and getting enough quality sun. We also want to make sure that we're getting enough zinc and copper and magnesium, as well as selenium. All of these minerals, as well as our vitamins B, vitamins A and E and K, can be found in a whole foods plant-based diet, which is colorful and diverse and is full of things like your whole grains, which is where you're going to get a lot of your B vitamins and fiber from, and things like your dark leafy greens and legumes is where you'll get a lot of those minerals that I mentioned, such as zinc and iron and copper, also potassium, and make sure that you're getting a lot of your fruits as well so you can get your vitamin C in also. All the nutrients that we need can be easily found in plant foods, and if you ever find that you are deficient or a physician says that you are deficient in a certain vitamin, try to see if you can increase the amount of food sources of that vitamin first, as well as supplementing if he or she recommends that. But definitely you can find the nutrients that you need, if not in a common plant source around you, then a supplement for sure. The next question is, I lost my period, how can I get it back? So there are a lot of ways that one can lose their period. It can be through PCOS or endometriosis, or maybe you got pregnant, or maybe you have hypothalamic amenorrhea, which is what I'm gonna cover here. For all the other things, make sure you speak with your gynecologist or your physician just about how best to work around that diagnosis and in order to regain your health back. But if we're talking about hypothalamic amenorrhea, which is secondary amenorrhea, meaning you had your period and then you lost it and you've lost it for consecutive 3 to 5 months, that is easily fixed. Well, I say easy because solution is quite straightforward, but it's quite a mental journey. But that can be fixed by eating more food. And by eating more food, normally the regimen, and this is from No Period, Now What, this method has been put together by a PhD researcher as well as other colleagues who've had hundreds of women as kind of like their test subjects who've also lost their period due to excessive exercise, going on a new diet, losing a lot of weight, and that's like 5 to 10 pounds, and being overly stressed. So this method requires eating more, at least a baseline of 2,500 calories a day, and moving less, so decreasing your exercise. Basically, the point is to gain weight and de-stress your body. Because right now, if hypothalamic amenorrhea is the thing that you are describing, which is honestly very common in those who switch from a regular diet to a plant-based diet, right now your body's recognizing this deficiency in energy, whether it's from exercise or not enough food, as survival mode. It's like we can see around us that we're trying to lose weight, we're trying to look healthy, we're trying to live this new like glamorous lifestyle, but our body doesn't see that. The body thinks that we're still in the jungle, we're still in the rainforest, and there's not enough food. Also, if there's stress in the picture, to us it's like, okay, we have a lot of school deadlines, or yes, my boss is asking me for a lot. But that biological response to stress, it comes from the evolutionary response to danger. To us, it's like, I have like 5 tests next week, but to our bodies, it's like, oh my gosh, there's not enough food and there's a tiger chasing after me. What the heck? What your body is trying to do is reserve as much energy as possible and put energy into the areas that are most important. And that's not a situation or an environment in which it's probably healthy or helpful for your survival at all to bear a child. And so the reproductive system will shut down, and then other things will slowly start to shut down too. Things that are non-essential to just day-to-day living. Your period is very important for bone health, as well as digestive health, as well as heart health, as well as brain health. Over time, you might see that your digestive health is lacking. You might see that your brain is starting to get a little foggy. There's also been a couple studies that show that hypothalamic amenorrhea increases your risk for hypertension and cardiovascular disease. And also you might find that you're getting stress fractures if you keep working out really hard, or if you end up getting a DEXA scan, you might find that your bone density is not as dense as it was before. So the body just needs, in order to fix all of that, it needs to know that it's in a place of peace, it's in a place of rest, that it's getting an abundance of food, that it's getting everything that it needs. So eating at least 2,500 calories a day, and that's like the baseline. So if you consider this as like homework assignment or a test, getting 2,500 calories is like a C plus, or maybe like just a flat C, where you want an A plus, so try to go as much as possible. And then resting. What I've found is that the faster you go toward this goal, so the faster you gain that weight and just get your period, the sooner it'll be over, and the sooner you'll get your period, and the sooner you'll be able to regulate it again and regain your health, not only physically, but mentally. A lot of the people who suffer from HA, hypothalamic amenorrhea, also have a little bit of diet culture in their head about expectations of what they're supposed to eat and how they're supposed to look and how fit they're supposed to be, when in reality, the main objective of all of this is just to be healthy. And if we can't have our period because we want to look up to par with societal standards, it's not necessarily healthy, nor is it helping you or maybe people around you. That's how to get it back in a nutshell. If you want more information, make sure you read the book No Period Now What by Dr. Nicola Rinaldi. It's on noperiodnowwhat.com. It'll be linked somewhere in the description for you. So make sure you check that out. It'll definitely help you. The next question is, I feel weak since I am vegan. The biggest contributor to feeling weak, feeling tired, not feeling like you have enough energy, or feeling lackluster as you switch from a regular diet to a vegan diet is simply not eating enough. Plant-based foods are so much more calorically dilute, which means you have to eat more bites of food to get the same amount of energy. So make sure that when you switch to a plant-based diet, or if you are new to a plant-based diet and you feel kind of tired, try logging your day's worth of food. Not like you're trying to count your calories or restrict or anything like that, but just to see what your day looks like and really how much energy you're getting. If you find that you're getting the same amount of energy, make sure you're checking the amount of nutrients that you're getting, because you can get the same amount of energy by eating like 3 pounds of French fries in a day, but you're not getting the essential nutrients that you need. So definitely make sure you're checking for your micronutrients, so your vitamins and minerals, as well as your fiber, your carbohydrates, your fats, as well as your protein. If all else fails, make sure you check out a plant-based physician or a plant-based dietitian who can help you out. So the last question is, how can I gain weight as a vegan? So I guess this kind of goes with the question about the person who lost their period. But to gain weight as a vegan, nowadays it's pretty easy with all the fun foods that are available. You can eat a bunch of vegan burgers and vegan pizza and French fries and pasta, and probably gain enough weight if you want as a vegan. If you want to do it the more whole food based way or the healthier way to gain weight, definitely increase your intake of nutrient and calorie dense foods. So things like nut butters, nuts, avocados, olives, coconut based things, as well as your more dense sources of calories such as dates. Dates are a great way to get in more food without feeling overly stuffed. You can try incorporating nutrition bars or plant-based protein bars as well, just for a little bit more extra calories. And then definitely incorporating things like smoothies if you want to make it easier to get in more nutrients and get in more calories without feeling super full all the time. Also, you want to make sure that you are supplementing and getting enough of the vitamins that you need. Okay, so that's it for the Q&A. Thank you guys so much for asking these questions and for hanging out with me. I hope you learned something, and if you want to know more, make sure you follow us, follow Vivo Life as well as follow me, and we will share our knowledge as we go. But anyway, I hope you guys have a great morning, noon, day, or night wherever you are, and maybe I'll see you in the next coming pieces of content. Bye!